So, picture this. You open a book, and before getting to chapter one, you are bombarded with a list of trigger warnings longer than the table of content. So, the question I pose to you is, do you think trigger warnings are protecting readers, or are they quietly changing the reading experience? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Hi, welcome back. My name is Anna, and if you like reading vlogs, book reviews, the occasional controversial, bookish hot take, don't forget to subscribe and give this video a big like. So, before I proceed, I just wanted to let you know that this is not an anti-trauma rant, a pro-censorship type of video. This is just whether or not you believe that readers need to be cuddled or have or hands held as we navigate chapter by chapter through these books. Because you see, personally, I believe that a simple caution, proceed at your own risk, would suffice because oftentimes, like 10 times out of 9, or 9 times out of 10, trigger warnings only end up spoiling the books for me. So I just thought I just get that out of the way, This is the internet. People get touchy-feely. You make a video and people think it's about them. And before I know, I have 10,000 people stitching this video, making a video about me. I have really bad social anxiety, so I'm not trying to get the book community to come for me. So I just thought I just get that out there before we divulge any further. So, what are trigger warnings? According to ptsduk.org, and I'll leave a link down below for those of you who want to check it out, the rationale behind trigger warning is simple. By giving individuals a heads up about sensitive content, they can prepare themselves mentally and emotionally, or even choose to avoid the material entirely. This is particularly relevant for individuals with PTSD who may experience distressing symptoms when confronted with reminders of their trauma. The primary goal of trigger warnings include reducing emotional distress by allowing individuals to brace themselves before exposure to potential upsetting material, providing a sense of control by giving people the option to engage with or avoid the content, creating a safe environment where people feel supported and protected from unnecessary emotional harm. So now we have like a basic understanding of what trigger warnings are. What are they meant to do? Now, in my own opinion, as everything in this video is my opinion, I believe that the purpose of trigger warning is to help readers who have gone through certain trauma prepare themselves and, basically decide if they want to proceed with this book. Right? Like I'm thinking that that's what you're thinking, but the thing I have is, does every book require or per se need a trigger warning? One of the books that I think that trigger warnings really spoils for me is thriller, because I already know that something bad's gonna happen. But when you tell me or give me a list of these trigger warnings, I'm mentally prepared. So I kind of like exactly know what's gonna happen. You feel me, right? The bottom line is the intent of trigger warnings doesn't necessarily equal its impact, because I believe that trigger warnings are like the swing vote as to whether or not readers divulge or choose to read said book. And the reason why I say that is, as humans, we sometimes want to go in blind. We like to test the waters ourselves, take a leap of our own fate. I just don't believe writers should per se make the decision first. I just believe that the decision as to whether or not we read this book or as to how much we can handle should be up to us. And I just believe that with trigger warnings, I I might be saying this wrong. Normally, I would have already said this throughout the video. I was recently in a car crash and my brain has been processing things a lot different. One of the things that has happened is I find myself saying stuff or want to say stuff in Spanish. Mind you, I don't speak Spanish. So I might be a little bit repetitive. I might be grasping at stuff. that's just my concussion. I'm still recovering. Like this hand, I do a lot of movement with my left hand, and this shoulder. So I have my hand like this. This shoulder, literally, like I can barely move the shoulder, but I can move the hand. I I'm just trying to like get you to understand. So if I keep repeating myself, it's not me trying to sound illiterate or something, or trying to make this video longer for some reason. Because now I did my little rant. I'm just saying that I believe in anatomy. Like I'm not saying, like, sometimes warnings are good. Like if someone tells me that the street is blocked, like like down the road is blocked, then yeah, I know not to go down the road because they're just looking out for me. But if they tell me down the street is blocked, but there's also a detour, you see what I'm saying? Or if they say, hey, there's a detour down the road. They didn't necessarily say the road is blocked. They said there's a detour. And so I can come to the most possible conclusion would be that the road is blocked, but it could have been something else. What? No idea. I just know that there's a detour, and that's as much. That kind of tells you that the road is blocked, but it doesn't completely tells you the road is blocked. You see what I'm saying? And I just think that if writers find a way to write trigger warnings like that, it would help me. I don't know if you're someone who has a problem with trigger warnings, but I do have a problem with trigger warnings. Now, I'm not saying that trigger warnings shouldn't exist. I'm just saying, like, I haven't been in anything extremely traumatic where I could say that it would per se prevent me from reading a book. But a lot of the stuff that trigger warning warns about are stuff that, people have gone through personally, and readers from a psychological standpoint, I guess writers don't want readers to necessarily relive those traumatic moments from a psychological standpoint. But it still comes back to me saying, I just believe that there's a way that authors or writers can find a way to write these trigger warnings. Or like this guy, I don't remember his name, but if I remember his name, he's on YouTube here. I'm gonna insert his name. He said that he wished that authors like put the trigger, like they'll give you like a little, hey, trigger warnings in the back, and so you can choose to read them because they'll be at the back versus when they're at the front. And I think that's a really, really good idea. So, since I've been bashing trigger warnings, I'm gonna share like um, just a few ways that I think that trigger warning does help. So, trigger warnings help because it gives readers agency, and you know how liberating that can be. It gives readers a choice as to whether or not they can proceed, so they just know if that's something they want to divulge divulge into. Is that how I would say that? It's also reduce, surprise and any unexpected traumatic distress. You could be recovering from, like, I don't want to use my car crash because it was very traumatic for me, but I could still read a book about a car crash. So I don't want to like play down the level of trauma. Like if someone was essayed recently, then I don't think they'd want to read a book while they're still recovering about essay. So just letting readers know that it plays a major part in the story, I think is good. Also, as I touch on that, one of the biggest problem I have now that it came to mind with trigger warnings is if the trigger is like a very minor like a blip, like two lines, or doesn't really play a big part of the plot, I personally don't think it needs to be mentioned. You know what I'm saying? But if it plays like a major part of the plot where it's recurring, where you're gonna see like almost every other chapter, then personally I don't mind. It's just instances where they'll mention a minor detail and you read the book and that happened like barely for less than a sentence. And I would have forgotten about it had you not put it in the trigger, because I would have read that line and be like, oh, okay. So, I've mentioned, like two things that are good about trigger warnings. As you know, I don't know, this is basically just me bashing trigger warnings. I'm just saying, like, say a friend called you and they say, hey, I'm going to be in town this weekend, all weekend, you're going to be looking out for their arrival. You're going to be expecting them. You know, that's why I believe that triggers are a really big spoilers. Because if you tell me that someone's going to be decapitated, I'm going to be looking out for that. And because sometimes I'm going to talk for myself because I'm so focused on looking out for that because you told me, sometimes you end up not connecting to the story in a way that you'd like to, not enjoying the story in a way that you would like to had you not known. It's like when you have a birthday coming up, like shit could be happening. You're just so focused on like your birthday. It's like when you have like a wedding coming up, you're just so focused on like that big, you know about it, so you're so focused on it. That's what trigger warnings are for me. They're like, I know about them, and so I'm just looking out for them. It's like when you go on Book Talk or Instagram or YouTube and you see someone post like a scene from a movie, and when you finally go watch that movie, you are looking out for that scene, aren't you? That's what trigger warnings are for me. So I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying like books don't need trigger warnings. Like, I'm just saying that there is a better way that trigger warnings can be written. And I believe that they can be written in a way where people who need trigger warning can benefit from trigger warnings, and then people who don't necessarily need trigger warning can also appreciate the fact that trigger warnings were left in. And it could be something as simple. It's like there's so many. I'm gonna like make a confession. There's so much I learned about consent through trigger warnings. I didn't know that there was so much type of consent, to be honest, until I started reading like a book on the books on the darker side, and I learned that there's so much that goes into consent. It's not just yes and no. And I when I learned about a lot of these, and then I read the book, and I'm like, I can see where the trigger warnings make sense. I just believe that they're obsessive in the way they're written. I could be wrong, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below. So, to answer my original question, are trigger warning ruining reading? Do I think they're ruining reading? Inherently, no. I believe in the yin and the yang, the good and the bad. Nothing's ever really bad or ever really good. I just believe that there's a time and place for everything under the sun, and everything in life need balance. And I believe that where trigger warning is concerned, I believe that writers can get to that sweet spot to please readers. You see, where readers and writers come in, we have like a mutual relationship. You provide us with books, we read books, we leave you reviews. It's just like, I just believe that there's where that everyone can be happy, writers. But then again, also, we live we live in sensitive time where even I just posting a video like this, I could wake up tomorrow and a bunch of people stitching this saying, hey, I don't know what I'm talking about, and how that's a hot take. So, trigger warning, I just believe that like our current society has basically ruined a lot of things, because there's some books that you read that like there shouldn't have to be any trigger warning. I just believe that when you know what's about to happen in a book, it kind of like down it you don't I don't believe that you have the or you react the way that you would have had you not known. It's like if someone had told me that day that I was gonna crash, like had I gotten a dream or someone say, hey, you're gonna be in a car crash. When I got in the car crash, I wouldn't have been as surprised as I was because I knew. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing. But we live in a society where we constantly have to think about not getting canceled. Like we're in this people pleasing culture, and there are some books that you read that it's like when you read books like about slavery or about like just imagine if I think her name is Susan Collins had written Hunger Game with all those trigger warnings. You know, people would have not gotten that outrage that they feel when they read the book. Like, what if Divergent? I watched the movies and I loved the book. What if Divergent had that level of that had all those trigger warnings? It would have bring out the emotions that it did. You see what I'm saying? Like so many books that I remember enjoying, I enjoy them because no one was telling me what to expect, and so my emotions in that moment were raw. I could not be making sense. I hope I'm getting through to at least one person. But I think I'm gonna end this video right here. And like I could go on and on. I could go on for eternity because I could talk for days. But I just believe that I want to end this video right here before y'all cancel me. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful year, month, week, day, hour, minute, second. Now, if I haven't been canceled, I will see you in my next video. Bye.